After taking a few days to reset, it looks like I'm ready to get back to work. We are now in stage 2 of our well preparations. The well is in the ground, but we still need to have it trenched to our house, have a pump put in, and then some pressure tanks. It looks like it's going to be a while before we have all of that up and running. I'll need to move some of the horses, so it looks like I am finally going to have to finish this hidden pasture for the boys. I need to finish putting up the fence. I need to finish the area for the run-in shed, and then somehow figure out how to protect the lone apple tree. Once it is complete, I can move the boys over. I am short a few panels for this area, so I will have to take them from Whiplash and Goose's pen.
Stay here, Tiny.
I did get a little bit off track today with side quests, so I'm going to have to wait until tomorrow to move all those panels around. I got a little bit preoccupied pulling out weeds today, but tomorrow I should be able to complete the boys' new pasture and then get Goose and Whiplash moved. Hello, Tiny. You hungry? Come on. Go, Tiny. Ivar, you already had 2 breakfasts. You had 2 breakfasts already. I was really hoping to move Sparkler in with Prim and Scarlet, but I decided that it was just going to be too much juggling of horses around. Sparkler is pretty content by herself, and I'm thinking that if I move Whiplash and Goose up here, that she'll have some friends across the fence, and that should be enough for her. Goose has been on a few escapades around the ranch, so he has already met Sparkler. I even put them in a pen together, which did not go very well at all. But I think if they have a fence in between them, that they should be able to interact without getting into too much trouble. I know Goose is going to behave, but Whiplash might be another story. I bought Whiplash when he was 17 years old and he was still a stud. He lived most of his life in isolation before I got him. I purchased Goose around the same time, and these 2 boys just ended up being the best of friends. Whiplash does have a pretty hard time when I take Goose away, and I think that has impacted his training. I'm hoping that Whiplash can become friends with Sparkler, and then I can take Goose away and he won't get too terribly upset. I have had these 2 boys separated from the other boys for quite a while. I can put all 7 of them together and they do get along relatively well. Since Whiplash was a stud for so long, he still does have a lot of stud-like tendencies. He always wants to be in charge and does do quite a bit of chasing around of the other horses. I've noticed since I separated them, the other boys are so much happier. Whiplash is 22 this year, and the other boys definitely noticed that he is starting to slow down a little bit. Studman was challenging him for his place in the herd, and it was causing a little bit too much trouble. With these boys separated, I think Whiplash has had a lot more time to rest and be content just hanging out with Goose. Like most of the other horses, I have noticed that Goose has mentally matured a lot since we moved. I'm not sure if it's the weather or if it's because I see them pretty much first thing in the morning and then last thing at night. In Montana, the property that the horses were at, I did lease, so I was constantly driving back and forth. I do think now I get to spend much more quality time with them because I can just pop out whenever I want and check in on them or groom them. Goose has actually started coming up to me when they're turned out, which is something he never did before. His previous owners roped him and tied him to a donkey to try and halter break him, and that really had an effect on how I have to catch him in the pasture and how willingly he'll come up to me. It's been really interesting to see Goose and Pete kind of evolve side by side. They both had some similar trauma with their training, and they're both the same age. While it's totally fine if they just want to hang out and be horses for the rest of their lives, it would be really fun if I could get back to riding them. Both Pete and Goose were very explosive under saddle, and they are the two horses that my husband did not want me to ride while I was by myself. We've got some plans to get some cameras up on the arena pad so he can watch me from inside of the house. I'm really hustling to get the pens and shelters and water lines in before the winter. After doing some brief calculations, I think I'm going to be cutting it a little bit close. I was trying to wait until the water lines were in to put the shelters and fencing up. I really don't want to wait much longer, so I might go ahead and get the shelters laid out before the water comes. After doing all of the dirt work for the new dry lots, it does seem like I might have some trouble with the rocks. Trenching for water lines is pretty easy if you have the right equipment. The plan for now is to get someone to trench the short distance from the new well to our house, and then at a later date I am going to be trenching for the horses' water. Originally, I was just going to have someone else do it, but after seeing the amount of rocks in the ground, I think it'll be more cost effective if I do it myself. We don't have unlimited funds, so I have to be mindful of what we're spending money on and if it is more beneficial for us to do it ourselves. Either way, the horses do have to move to different pens so they are not getting in the way. And after about 15 minutes up on the pad, it looks like Sparkler finally noticed Whiplash.
Sparkler.
Yep. I really don't like turning horses out to pens where they can share a fence line. It is one of the easiest ways that they can get accidentally hurt. I didn't realize it, but it does look like Sparkler is in heat as well. I'm going to keep a close eye on these two because it could go south rather quickly. The temporary pen that Whiplash and Goose were in is getting moved up to the arena. I'm going to use most of the panels to enclose the rest of it. This will make the perfect area to turn out Sparkler so she can stretch her legs. I definitely could use this arena without a fence around it, but I think in the long run it's going to be beneficial if I do have something around the edges. Once I get out the rest of the little rocks up here, this should be the perfect area to turn Bruce and Prim out. When I first turned Whiplash out up here, I was worried he would be a little bit too excited with all of these girls around. All of the horses on the neighbor's property are mares. For his age, Whiplash is in really good shape, but I don't want him running around aimlessly in this weather. Today is going to be a really hot day, and for the next week or so we should be right around 100 degrees up here. That is around 38 degrees Celsius. These two boys did have a good amount of shade in their other pen. but the shade from these aspen trees is here pretty much all day long, and especially during the hottest part of the day. I've noticed it's pretty common in this area just to have a shade shelter. Where we are positioned between the mesas and different mountains, we do get some extreme weather here with very high winds. We've kind of moved out of that type of weather for the rest of the summer, and now we're just getting sporadic thunderstorms, some really hot days, and a light sprinkling of rain every now and then. The shelters that I'm putting up are going to have to be able to withstand the strong winds and then a pretty heavy snow load. We got a little bit of snow this winter, but it is nowhere near what they typically say we get. As long as the horses have some kind of shade out here during the summer, it seems like they get along rather well. I've noticed even when it is pretty darn hot in the afternoon, most of the horses like to nap right out in the blazing hot sun. There seems to always be the perfect breeze to cool them off, which is not something I can say for inside of our house. I think out of everybody on the ranch, my husband and I have probably been struggling the most with the heat. Since we have very limited water in our old well, we haven't been able to run our swamp cooler. In this environment, most people use evaporative cooling, so it does take quite a bit of water. It's been staying right around 100 degrees during the day, and at night it's only cooling down to around 70 to 75 degrees. We have one tiny little air conditioner in our house that is good for one room. Huckleberry and I have recently started to take little siestas in the hottest part of the day in the coolest area in the house. Even though I do have a lot of work to do, if I stay outside when it's too hot, I tend to get exhausted very quickly. I found that I am much more productive if I'm able to take a break in the middle of the day. As I'm moving around these panels, they are really heating up from the sun. The only thing I have left to do for this pen is to bring over the electricity for the fence, and I do have to pound in a ground rod. It does look like we may get a little bit of moisture, so I head inside for a quick little nap.
Hello, Sparkler.
After spending the day next to Whiplash and Goose, it looks like Sparkler is ready to be by herself again. Ever since I brought her home from pickup, she has always been very independently minded. She is definitely in a better headspace when she's able to have her own area to relax in. While I really do like the horses to have friends, some horses do just feel more comfortable with their own space. Sparkler was in holding for about a year, so she did have to share a very small space with a large number of other horses. That could be part of the reason why she does enjoy having her own hay to munch on in her own space. Sparkler has gained quite a bit of weight since I brought her home. While she wasn't skinny by any means, there is the possibility that while she was in holding, she wasn't getting the nutrition that she needed. Since moving her up to the arena, she has been slimming down very gradually. Since doing all of the dirt work, I have shown you guys quite a bit of what my plans are for the new pens. One thing that I haven't really decided on is where my round pen is going to go. I'll probably put one in the arena when I get back to working the horses. But as I was walking around, I thought maybe this area in the middle could be big enough. It would be nice to have it right next to the arena. The turnaround I built for the trailers does seem to have enough space in the middle that I could probably put a 60-foot round pen if I redid the dirt work. I have a bunch of apple trees and different plants that I was going to put in here. We are supposed to be having daily little sprinkles for the next 10 days, so it would be a good time to plant a few things. I do have to dig all of the holes for the trees and shrubs by hand, so I don't want to do unnecessary work if I'm just going to move them to put in a round pen. The other spot that might be really good is at the bottom of the arena. This is an area where there was an old barbed wire fence, and I actually haven't been able to pull all of it up out of the ground yet. This spot is relatively flat, but for some reason I don't like it as much as the other area. I just did a really quick measurement walking across the space, but I'll have to get out here with a long measuring tape and make sure everything is going to fit. I would like to have at least a 60-foot arena, maybe a little bit larger. I also want to put a few training stalls up by the arena. Once all of the infrastructure is done, I'm going to spend a lot more time actually training the horses. I want the training stalls to be really close to the arena and the round pen, so when I get unhandled horses, they are easier to move around. That all still kind of depends on how easy it is to get water up here. When I was doing the dirt work, I did lay out some pads for some rather large run-in sheds. I can build some bigger sheds for more horses, or I can split them up and have smaller little runs. I think I'll probably end up fencing the perimeter and then having multiple sheds inside one giant dry lot. I really don't want to put up permanent fencing until the water lines are dug because it sounds like they are not going to be straight. With all the giant boulders in the ground, it seems like all of the digging you do underground ends up being kind of zigzaggy. I'm trying to keep the horses contained to one general area, but it would be kind of a shame not to take advantage of this view. With all of the commotion, most of the prairie dogs have moved to a different part of the property. There are still a few stragglers, but I think once there's more activity, they too will vacate the premises.
You hungry? Hold on, we'll feed the ponies first. Gotta wash your dish. Okay, hold on. I hear ya. Hey, little man.
Ooh, that's a good boy.
Hey.
Since Bruce was left to his own devices while I was doing all of the dirt work, he has turned into a little bit of a monster. He has grown so much over the week and his color continues to get darker by the day. He still isn't super excited about me touching his head and neck, so I've been working on all of the motions I'm going to be doing when I finally put the halter on his tiny little head. He doesn't really wriggle very much to be restrained until I go to touch his head. Before I put his halter on, I want him to stand perfectly still for this. He's still got a little ways to go, but we're still on a pretty good trajectory. I keep forgetting how old this little dude is, and he still hasn't turned 3 months old yet. His umbilical stump finally fell off today, and while I was checking it out, I realized that he is very itchy in that spot. I've been trying a few different things to manage the flies around here, and it seems like putting all their poop in a pile outside their pen is working surprisingly well. If I take all of the poop out, the flies just end up staying in the area, but if I let them gather in a small portion outside the pen, it seems to keep most of the flies away from Prim and Bruce. In my master plan, I still haven't decided where my manure pile is going to go. That is another thing that is probably going to depend on where exactly we put the water lines. Currently, I'm going through the compost faster than the horses can make it. I already have Prim and Bruce's pile slated for one of the hugelkultur beds that I just made. I was joking with my husband when I said we probably need some more horses so we can get more fertilizer going. He didn't seem too terribly upset by it, but I do need to wait and see what the end of the hay season looks like. I do not think that I am going to have any pasture for the horses to overwinter on, so I'm going to have to buy about 50 tons of hay. A few of the shelters I have planned for the horses are going to double as hay storage. I didn't want to go through a Sunday update without showing you guys a little bit of what's happening in the garden. A few of the flowers are blooming, including these Macarena zinnias. I also have some type of squash that I started in the jugs that is starting to produce some fruit. I honestly cannot remember what this is, but it looks like I accidentally stepped on it. Another flower that just started to bloom is the Cosmo plant that I have. This one was also from my cold stratification experiment. The little pumpkins have completely taken over my chaos garden, and it looks like my very first tomato of the season is starting to ripen. I got some really good recipes for zucchini that I've been testing out, but I am pretty excited to start harvesting something else from the garden.
Boys need more food.
In order to keep Whiplash and Goose distracted from pestering Sparkler too much, I've been giving them a steady stream of hay all day long. Sparkler has her annoyed ears on, so I'm not sure if she enjoys their company quite yet. I'm a little bit surprised that Whiplash quieted down so quickly. Since I bought him, he has never been turned out with another mare. It was just really hard for him to adjust to the fact that he was not a stallion anymore, and I didn't want to make it harder for him. Sparkler is definitely the most chill mare that I have on the property, so if anyone is going to get along with Whiplash, it is going to be her. Prim most definitely cannot be next to Whiplash, and Scarlet is still a bit immature minded.
It's Tiny. Tiny! What are you doing down here? Too hot?
I'm really glad that my plan seems to be working with Goose, Whiplash, and Sparkler. In the next couple of days, I should be able to move the boys.
You hungry? Charlie?
A few of you guys have been asking about Charlotte, and I can definitely tell that she is starting to really slow down. She does not seem to realize that she is getting much older, and now when she goes outside, she has to be supervised. She has a tendency to wander, and I don't want anything bad to happen to her. She recently went to the vet to get some routine blood work and just to make sure everything is in tip-top shape. It has been a little bit hard for me to come to terms with the fact that she is turning into an old cat.
What are you doing? Are you done lounging?
It has been really nice to take little breaks throughout the day to let Charlotte roam around the yard. Even though it's getting pretty hot out, she does like to take naps in the grass under the shade of some of the big trees around our house.
Okay, come on.
It seems like Bruce has a rather short attention span these days. He still isn't too keen on getting a halter on, but I think that should come here pretty soon. I really love the mind on this little horse, and I don't want to do anything to break his spirit. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.